Call this Brown County Commission meeting to order. Commissioner Pfeiffer, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. First item on the agenda, we have Scott Mites, Emergency Management Director, Jen Sitzma, NECOG, Pre-Disaster Mitigation Plan.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, you want me to?
Go ahead.
Every 5 years, you have the requirement to update your mitigation plan. The mitigation plan makes you eligible for Hazard Mitigation Grant Program funding. That's the 75% grant, 25% local match responsibility. And it becomes available to the county every time that we have a presidential declared disaster in our state. There's currently $7.1 million available, and you're currently not expired. So if you guys have projects, you're eligible to apply for those. December 13th is the deadline. This application is the same deal, 75% grant, 25% local match, but the way we've always done this is we just collect the local match in kind, so it's essentially $0 to the county. So, and then we do all of the updates to your plan. This year will be incorporated, or if this is awarded this year, you technically don't expire till 2022, but in order to prevent any kind of lapse in your plan so that you're always eligible for mitigation funding, we try to get ahead of it. So we submit the application. It used to take, and technically the state has 12 months to award, and then FEMA has 12 months to make a decision. So it could take 2 years. 2 funding cycles ago we applied and it took 18 months for them to award. And so we were ready to go, and then we had to wait 18 months for awards before we could get contracts out and start. So it backed all of those up, and then the next time we submitted, they awarded in 15 days. So now we have 9 counties all stacked up on top of each other that I'm essentially the one who does all that work. So really by applying early, it helps make sure that your plan doesn't lapse and that we can get your plan updated in plenty of time before you expire. If you do expire, it's not that big of a deal. We can still develop funding applications for any projects you want or any of your communities within the county want to apply for. The state just holds them until we have an approvable plan, you know, to them and ready for adoption. So really it's just it's kind of an easy win for you guys because it costs the county nothing. Our cost is covered entirely by the grant, and then the other 25% we collect by doing, Scott and I do local meetings, and I believe some of you have attended those in the past. Typically they're held downstairs, and then we try to get all the communities in. And really this is a good time to talk about mitigation because anytime we've had a really bad year for weather, it's when people can really analyze and see where they're vulnerable and see if there's anything we can do to take care of maybe roads that need grade raises or bigger culverts or anything like that. So, so there is a resolution that's required. In the past, we've always handled it as the resolution designates your emergency manager as the applicant agent. And then, just to be redundant, the state likes the designation of applicant agent. It's a little bit more specific. It has his name and address and phone number specifically on there. So with those 2 forms, if you choose to designate Scott, which is the way we've always done it, then he's allowed to sign all of the rest of the requirements for the grant. Basically, there's like all the federal stuff, so drug-free workplace, you're not going to discriminate. You've signed these, well, you've signed them probably 100 times for every other program we've ever done that's federal. So disclosure of lobbying, there's not going to be any lobbying for you guys to get this. State and local has agreements between the state and the county, which he already takes care of. So, and then your commitment to the local match, which again, we've never not been able to collect enough. And if we don't have enough by the time we're done, we just hold another meeting, discuss the changes, and keep holding meetings until we have all of our in-kind. In-kind is collected at current rate we use the federal rate, so it's $21.91 per hour per individual who shows up to the meeting, so it's pretty easy to meet the commitment. And then I guess for a dollar amount, if anybody cares, again, it's $0 to the county, but what we are applying for covers our cost to update the plan. And this year there will be a lot of changes due to the risk map, the FEMA risk map stuff that they're doing, so we're going to incorporate everything that they've been doing with your base level engineering. Are you guys familiar with, maybe you've been to a couple meetings with FEMA here about that? Okay.
Heard about it.
Okay, so they've been out in other counties recently, so they haven't been in Brown County, but the numbers, I think it increased maybe $600 from the last time, and that's just time and, sorry.
Jen, is the 7.1 million, is that what's available throughout South Dakota?
Yes, yes, and honestly, if our state doesn't use all of it, if they don't get enough funding applications submitted to them to use it all, it goes back to the federal government. So I'm always all about, if you have projects, even if we feel like, you know, they're not a great project, if you have something and we have time to get an application, then let's do it. You know.
Is that typical? Like last time, roll around, how much
This
was
is
put
a
in?
lot because of the amount of damage we've had this year. Normally, I think sometimes we have 1 million, 3 million. The year that, in 2011, the last high year, I think we used most of it to do home acquisitions in Waubee. There was 5.6 million in one award, and then a subsequent award for another disaster later that resulted in $1 million. We've been better about drawing it all down, but our state used to use it all to bury power lines because that was the easiest way to get rid of the money rather than sending it back to the federal government. So.
Whenever there's a declaration, a federal declaration, FEMA sets aside a certain percentage of that to go into the mitigation pool, and that's what this is. So the larger the declaration across the state, the more money for mitigation.
And there will be subsequent, right? We already know there's going to be
Yep.
a subsequent one. So if you're not ready, you know, for whatever right now to submit an application December 13th, it would be hard because we have to do the environmental review, and it takes at least 32 days to get the responses back from all the agencies. So we're kind of pushing up to, we can't take any more projects at this point, but the following, I think March, have they announced the?
I don't think so.
I've been telling people March. I think it's just a few months behind the other one for the second one. So if you have ideas, I know that Ted was out of the meetings for storm shelter at the fairgrounds, you know, and I haven't been involved in those discussions recently, so I don't really know what's progressed there, but yeah, or if you want to use it on.
Well, this weekend we've been made of aware of a dire need up in Hecla. I mean, one of the two lift stations shut down, and so the town is in dire straits. So I just didn't know if something like that we could use.
There's faster ways to get money for that. There's currently emergency money that's going to be available for community facilities, but we can also use the USDA Rural Development Program or DENR. They're going to be a quicker turnaround for something like that. Neither of them are fast by any means, but they're going to be quicker than this program.
Our bigger problem, though, is where to put it, because the land, you know, where to find the land to put drainage.
Okay.
Bigger. I don't know if that's something that's addressed in those particular proposals.
Well, and we will work with Hecla. Who's their?
Osterley.
Lloyd Trout.
Jay Osterley.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
he's the mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll work with them in the process of this too. It might be, the timing might not be great because we don't start actually writing the mitigation strategy into this until we start working on it, till we've been awarded. And you guys are behind 9 other counties right now, which is fine. You guys have till 2022. But for that situation, maybe somebody should call Ted. And
Yeah,
he
will you reach out to them or?
I can. I'll let Ted know, and we can give him a call and just see what we can do.
Yeah.
It's possible he's not aware of it. I don't do the community planning in Brown County. I only do mitigation planning in Brown County, so I cover some of our other counties for that. But we can certainly reach out to them and see if there's something we can do for them.
And if you can't, Hecla Implement.
Okay.
He owns Hecla Implement, so I think if you call Hecla Implement, they can.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yep. So are there any other questions about this? I was going to give you the number. I think it shows a total project of $19,500, and then the actual grant is $14,625, with the applicant share of $4,875. I think we figured each community would have to have about 10 hours essentially just committed to this. It's really minimal. And now we actually go out to the communities. If we don't have enough, we'll just go to the city council and we can collect everybody an hour or whatever for everybody at the table. So it's very easy to meet your match on that. So if there's no other questions about it, I'll let you guys get on to the rest of your agenda.
We currently have letters of, I call it intent, to the rest of the communities for participation, getting those signed as they go through their monthly meetings here this month. So we'll be collecting those and like I said, getting the other agencies, the other municipalities for sure involved as many as we can. So.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of them committing to being a participant in the plan. And if they sign it and decide not to later, we don't push anybody into this. We just let them know that if they choose not to participate, if a community chooses not to participate, their projects would essentially be put into the plan, but they would be prioritized. They would have to go through the county, so they would be prioritized behind the county's needs or wants. And so we encourage them to participate. It's good for them to participate if they have issues.
So I understand we need to adopt a resolution to appoint our emergency manager, Scott Meintz, as the contact or the...
They call it an applicant agent in this program, and it basically he becomes the point of contact. He really already is, because it's Jim Poppin from Office of Emergency Management. He's already kind of...
Move that resolution.
Second.
Have a motion by Pfeiffer, a second by Sutton, to adopt a resolution to appoint Mike or Scott Meintz as the
applicant
agent. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I will get these to Kathy and she can do what she needs to do. And then...
I just put Chairman. So there's two that you'll end up signing, and then everything else is for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if you just want to, I can roll with that. I don't know if it needs to be, Kathy probably wants a copy.
Yeah, only to sign our next resolution.
Yeah, so I can run them out to you today if that works. And
Do you want me to take that, or do you want to just sign it when you get there? Because some of them are for you.
My day is out of control right now, so I'm going to take it or I'll lose it.
Okay. All right, thanks,
Okay,
guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Thanks, Scott.
Throw your day off. You're good.
Next item on the agenda, we have Derek Ritchie with the Fair Manager, Fair Board members.
Are you ready?
Morning.
Morning, Derek.
Just wanted to come back and get your thoughts on the list of folks that we presented last week. I've got a copy of that memo in case anyone doesn't have it with them today.
I'll take one. Thanks so much.
Anyone else have a copy? If you have any questions on any of the names. And then I have another person that I'll be submitting for your review, and then I'll come back next week to get your thoughts on that person.
I think this is, isn't this the first time that there's been a husband and wife team on the Fair Board? Is that?
It would be the first time. Recommendation from me would be if you were to approve one at a 3-year, one at a probationary 1 year, and then if there are issues, then we could take it going forward from there. Versus seeing them vote for 3.
I don't think it's an issue. I mean, pretty much all those Fair Board members already have their spouses drug along to do half the work with them, so we're just officially putting them on.
I would make a motion to approve the names that have been submitted.
Including the
Did you want to include, it was written on our copy of the packet, it was,
The Clint memo?
something.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. I didn't know if you needed a formal memo for him.
and I'm okay with that too, if we want to include it to save another meeting.
That works.
Clint?
So all will be 3 years, is that the motion, or are you?
The people above the line will be 3. Personally, I would say for continuity and for planning with the husband and wife, go 1 for 3, 1 for Stephanie for 3, Randy for 1, and then evaluate at the end of the year. If there's no issues, then just escalate Randy to the remainder of the 3 year.
Are they aware of that?
I did make them aware during the interview process, just because it's never been done before. It's not to say that it can't be done, but just to allow for any unforeseen circumstances.
Sounds good, I second it.
We have a motion by Sutton, a second by Kipley, to authorize the people presented by fair manager. We want to do both the 1 year and the 3 year ones, all 8 members?
Right.
All in favor?
Actually, it would be 9, we're adding Clint Thompson.
Okay,
Right.
sorry.
Plan for a 3-year, so it'd be 9.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
If you have any issues, I can take it back, get rid of them, or keep them continuing.
Don't need it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Eric. Next item on the agenda, we have Scott Bader, Planning and Zoning Director, Office Update and Personnel. Scott's not available this morning. He has a medical procedure, but HR, Eric is with us with HR. They have put a plan together. Eric, would you like to present what you and Scott have talked about and kind of where we're heading with this program?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Okay, so what Scott and I discussed is what he would like to do with his department going forward. And so what we're looking at is Scott would like to add a full-time planning and zoning technician. And I believe I passed around a copy of kind of the job description as to what this planning and zoning technician would be doing. And then also, he would like to reclassify Nancy Clark North. Currently, she is classified as a part-time temporary employee, and we would just be moving her to a part-time regular employee. It would be more than 20 hours a week, but less than 30 hours a week. And then she would receive half the benefit of vacation and half the benefit of sick. And then if she'd like to contribute to SCRS, she could do that also.
She hasn't been getting those up to now.
Correct, she has not. And it sounds like her job duties have changed from the time that she started previously to what she's doing right now. So it would just be giving her a little bit more benefit for all the job duties that she is doing. And then also, effective January 1st with the new calendar year, just increasing her pay also.
That's just the regular increase, or would it
No,
be-
that would just be the regular increase, what was previously calculated. Yeah. And I have a copy here too.
We can discuss her salary count because it's, county
Yes.
employees are published, so she's currently at 11 something an hour?
$11.68 an hour, and the new one would be $13.75 an hour effective January 1st. And so it would be actually a little bit less than what was budgeted for.
And it'd be hiring one,
Yep, correct, the planning and zoning technician. And looking at that, we would start, the wage on that one would be $17.77, which comes out to around $37,000, a little bit under that a year. And that is less than what was budgeted for also. And if you guys want those budget numbers, I have those also. So initially, we had budgeted for like a planning and zoning assistant director is what we had initially budgeted for, and that was at $49,860.61. And so the planning and zoning technician would come in at $36,961.60. And then Nancy, we didn't know where she was going to fall or what the plan was there yet, and so we initially budgeted $20,412 for her. And right now, she would come in around $20,020 a year.
so do we need a motion or anything to move forward with?
Well, I think what we wanted to hear from Scott was kind of where he's at and where he wants to be and what his plan is for the office. And without him here today, I'm not in a position to make a decision on hiring a full-time employee until we hear that office recap and an update as far as what's expected, where we're at and where we're going.
And on the 3 mile, I guess that would be, like I asked Scott, I said, so it's official that we have the 3 mile now from the city, and he said, yes, it is official. So I guess I kind of look at what his plate had on it previously, and then adding the 3 mile in, how much work, I guess I don't know how much more work that would be, so that would be the
And those are the
question.
type of questions
Yeah.
that I think we need to ask and have answered.
Okay.
I had talked to Scott yesterday, he had to be in the office here, and one of the things he struggles with is, rewriting the ordinances for the county to fit in with that change in that zoning. He said he's pretty much caught up on everything else, but he has trouble getting to that rewriting of the ordinances.
I would suggest we reach out to NECOG, that's what they do. And they've been I know they've been working with other counties and along with the other planning districts, you know, their first district and so on. That's what their area of expertise is, and I think we, you know, with the contract we already have with them, the amount of money we pay them annually, I think that'd be a perfect fit for them to come in and at least get some draft ordinances.
I wonder if Eric hasn't been working with, for some reason or other, it just seems to me like Eric Singer's maybe been...
We did our comp plan, the one we're passing this fall, that 45-page
Well, that's what he's working on.
plan. So that, I mean, it would be a good discussion to have it. We're helping other counties right now, I'm jumping now. Because that's kind of the problem I see is, I like this proposal, I think this might be just what we want, but a lot of the stuff that we want done is catch-up work. Like, because of the changes that we've had with the city and the ordinance changes, it's not going to be a permanent stuff that we're working on. It's, you know, our CAPO ordinance and the stuff with the 3 mile. It's stuff that we need to get done now, but then it'll, you know, we'll go back to a more relaxed time, and obviously it is going to be some more work with that 3 mile, but I don't know yet that it's going to constitute a whole full-time person.
Okay.
So I think by elevating Nancy for sure, and then having a discussion with Scott whether this full-time is a temporary full-time, or maybe Nancy's is you know, that's kind of what I'm not sure of.
Right.
Do we need 2.5, almost 3 full-time people in that office? That I don't know.
I think the issue becomes on Fridays and mornings. Nancy doesn't come in until later in the morning, and she's off on Fridays. So if Scott happens to have a meeting or he's out of the office, there's nobody in planning and zoning.
Okay.
Then maybe Nancy's not the right fit for the job. I'm just saying
Maybe we hire the full-time.
Right. And then just have it a 2-person. I mean, those are just things that I'd like to sort through and ask the question. At the end of the day, what's our goal and what's going to be most efficient?
And maybe she would want full-time, but I don't know if she's ever been offered that or not.
I don't know either. So,
But this is good.
Yeah,
Have a
good proposal.
conversation about it.
Okay.
at least we've got the information if that's the road we choose to go down.
Sounds good.
Well, I guess we'll probably postpone it and put it on the agenda for next Tuesday, Kathy?
Sounds good.
Okay. And then is there
From there.
anything else you want me to look into? Do you want me to ask Nancy about the full-time piece? If she's ever
Yeah, it
been
doesn't hurt to ask
Okay.
her, just see if she's interested, because that would prevent us having to advertise and
Hire and
hire a
train.
new person if she's willing to step up and try it for 3-6 months and see if that helps us, and have a discussion with Scott whether that's his capabilities to take over what he was doing so he can work on those changes. And
Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You're welcome.
I see you had celebrity on the front page of the paper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda, we have Dirk Rogers, Highway Superintendent, right away for Webb Water, accept bid from Spink County for crack sealing.
Morning, Dirk.
How are you guys?
Morning.
Good. Got a right-of-way occupancy. It's from Webb Water. It's to put water into. They sold the Burbis farm up there on 13 and 281, and I believe that used to be on the same water service up there in the farm. So they're just boring under the road.
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Frankfurt, to approve the right of way for Webb Water. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The other thing is Spink County's crack sealer bid. We've already done some and we're going to do some more, but I would like to recommend to buy crack sealing services off of Spink County.
Excuse me.
So the bid isn't from Spink County, we're just using the Spink County bid.
Yeah, it's Spink, we're just buying off their bid.
Right, they're not doing the work though.
No, no.
It's their bid, because it says
highway.
we accept the
Yeah.
bid from Spink County.
I never know how to word them when I call them in.
I just want to make sure people know we're not hiring Spink County to do our work.
No.
It's off their bid, so.
Yep.
But if it were really good, we wouldn't be above that.
No, not at all. But no, this is highway improvement. It's the same company that's done it for us multiple times before. Tar and toilet paper people.
Yep, exactly.
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kippley, to accept the bid off the Spink County for crack
Should have
sealing.
everything in there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Should have the announcement.
Motion carries.
Bids and everything.
Anything else, Kurt?
Nope, that's it.
I got a question for you. It was
Okay.
brought to my attention, a mile east on County Road 7 of 14. I guess there is really a problem with that little hill out there, about a mile east of 14 on 7. I guess the gravel has pretty much all been washed off and people are having a little trouble.
Mile east of 14.
Martin Ronning Farm,
Okay.
right up the hill.
I don't know, I guess they said it's really mucky and
Okay.
tough to get up the hill. I don't know if that's, I haven't looked at it or anything, but it was just brought to my attention. I don't know if you
Must be that spring across the road from you that continuously runs.
That's just up the hill from where that fight's been for years over that
They built
spring
the
that
house
comes-
in the slough?
Yeah.
Didn't farm it, so that's where we put the house.
That's a good point.
Oh, you see that a lot. I mean, the beef plant's sitting where it is because they couldn't grow crap on the alkali down there, so heck, it was a great place to put a building. But that's why that's there. Okay, first mile east of 14. Okay.
County Road 7.
Yep, about a half mile, quarter mile just up from the stop sign.
We'll see what it is, if it's just a gravel deal or we can dig
That's
it
what
out.
it sounded like, is just the gravel is just totaled out when it rains. I guess it is just tough to get up and down.
Okay. All right.
And the concern I forwarded you about the Elm Lake Bridge, is that the main bridge they're talking, right in
Yep.
town?
Yep. I did a bad job of my vernacular apparently in explaining that. I found it kind of interesting that they acted like abandoned children, but the first frickin' thing I did when I came back in 2014 was fix 3A. The first thing we did. Come up with a plan that we could afford and we fixed it, okay? So that's why I reacted like I did. I'm guessing on the bridge thing, the bridge only became posted 1 year ago. It'll probably be functionally obsolete, meaning it'll be too narrow and old prior to it structurally not being able to carry a car anymore. And the other thing is, when I talk about bridges, to me a bridge either carries a whole load or it doesn't. And so you take that into consideration along with the land use in that area. That's why the bridge on County 13 and paving it right now and stuff, we're not impacting agriculture. I'm not saying no one ever drives a truck on that road, but it's not like, oh my goodness, we got all this corn beside that road. And that's the same scenario up here. There's a little bit of stuff on this side, a lot of hay and some wheat. I'm not saying there's no crops up there, but from a harvest standpoint, whether that bridge is posted or not isn't really hypercritical. So when you take that piece of that reason for prioritization of a bridge being harvest, which is my main reason for fixing bridges, is so you can harvest and drive over them. When you kind of remove that, the prioritization of that bridge, I'm talking in a big circle here, but I'm trying to do a better job of explaining myself. So it's not that I don't care about the people up there, but you're going to be able to drive over a pickup over that bridge, as the example that was given in the email of the guy that has to go check cattle. I would imagine you can drive a pickup over that bridge. This, I don't know, it's one we talked about the other day, but this bridge right here has been a 3-ton bridge since 2000, since I've lived here. You've been able to drive a pickup over it. So this one might be the same way. It's just for us to make that kind of $1 million investment in that bridge when you have almost no impact to harvest, I guess. And if you guys that work closer in the industry, if my logic's faulty, please let me know. But that's kind of how we prioritize them. And that's why when I talk about moving forward, that's why this bridge is critical right beside Warner, because that's very impactful at harvest time, as would be this one north of Strat when these two become unable to carry a full load.
So there's no danger of not being able to use the bridge, it's just posted.
That's a pretty absolute statement to make, but yeah, I mean, how long, the Hall Bridge has been posted since 1988.
Gotcha.
And we were still, well, hell, they were driving trucks over until the day we closed it. I mean, so sometimes when I'm looking at long-term things, and who knows, it's going to be 5 years from now, maybe things will look different. I try to be cynically optimistic, but
The real issue is if the county was rolling in cash, there wouldn't be an issue, wouldn't even be talked about. I mean, it comes down to priorities of where the county, the amount of money the county's got to spend on the highway program, and it's prioritizing is what it is.
Yep.
I mean, it's not a matter of ignoring the people that live out there, because there's no question there's people up in the very northwest corner of the county that love to come across there and go to the Elm Lake Resort, and it's unfortunate that they're probably going to have to, could potentially at some point in time sacrifice and have to go around, but that's not like going to happen tomorrow because the bridge is simply posted.
Right.
And
and to add a little more heartbreak to it, the survey crew went up there to start spending money on that bridge, at which time I would have said we're going to see it through then. But they went over to the one here at Frederick and they got that done, and then there was weather and winter and stuff, so they never did get started. I mean, someone actually went up there to start the process on it. And unfortunately, we got to draw a line somewhere. This is the stuff we're going to finish for sure, and from here onward, we're just going to have to kind of wait and see what happens, and that's just where the line got drawn, you know. So anyway, Rachel.
That's good. Thank you for the heads up.
How's the Hall Bridge? Is it still quite far behind, or?
It's the last I heard, they're still claiming it's going to be done on time. I don't know if I believe that.
Well, they've had some problems. They've been running into some structural...
They keep hitting rocks. The one they had to do a redesign, and then the second on the west or the east side they had to redesign the spread footing like we talked about. And then on the west side they hit it again, but they were able to drive a pile through the rock, crack it. I mean, that's another way they do it, but there must be some huge rocks sitting in there underneath the footings. But which is kind of funny, they don't like the Holloway bridges because we don't pre-drill foundations. We just go out and you drive the pile until it's at bearings. You don't do the exploration. And that's one of the things the DOT and the consultants don't like. So up the Hall Bridge, they drilled all the shafts and did all their underground, and guess what? We've had a change order and had a delay while they drove the pile, even though they did do that. So I'm kind of like, well, what the hell are you looking for then when you're drilling the shaft?
That's a guarantee, even if you do it.
Exactly. You miss the rocks as it was. So this isn't a warning or anything, but there's a few things that make me wonder if they'll get it open before freeze up. The other thing is, though, that type of construction, the completion date is November 5th, and that's tied to the last day, or November 5th or 1st, I can't remember, but it's tied to the last day you can pave, which is November 1st, according to the state spec book. So that's why they have that as a completion date. Unless you get this absolute socked-in blizzard, if they have to go a couple weeks past that to finish it, the things that they're doing, they can still do. Does that kind of answer your question? But, I mean, I do want to at least say we shouldn't be absolutely shocked if it goes a little over because of some of the delay things that we're talking about. My understanding is the water never went, the water wasn't, I don't think they've claimed that the high water has been a reason to slow them down yet, because obviously it was high when they started. It hasn't changed dramatically, as far as going up, so.
My understanding is it's the pile driving, they're having trouble with getting them down because of the rocks, or they may be hitting the older railroad bridge that used to be in there. They don't know exactly, I think, what they're hitting, but that's the problem they're having, is they've been running these snags trying to drive these pilings down.
so, and then the west bridge at Richmond, it looks to me like that's ready to be filled to the...
Yeah, we started it yesterday. Now we started paving today, which we had to pull the guys that were working at the west bridge are now over working with the paving crew today. But yeah, we'll be back on that, and then contractor Jacobs is going to finish the west side, or excuse me, the south side. They'll fill that in because that's still part of the grade raise project. So, and then we're hauling the dirt out that we stored behind Pat Keats's on the north side to finish that. So as soon as we get that backfilled and the concrete tests out, we can west bridge will pretty much be done. We got some cleanup to do, but a little bit of graveling and stuff, so.
Boy, Richmond Road is wonderful, quiet, peaceful,
Yep.
just no traffic.
What happens when you take out a bridge?
So,
No trucks.
Well, when that bridge going to Richmond there, is that road gonna be widened? Where the bridge is so much narrower, the road is so much narrower than the bridge is gonna be now, isn't it? Isn't that?
you're talking right at the bridge?
Yeah.
I haven't been down there to look at it. The bridge will be 4 feet wider itself. The bridge will be 4 feet wider. But the road will be, I think we made the road about 18 inches wider through that process. So, I mean, it won't be any narrower, but, the goal wasn't really to widen everything out. It's just something that you get when you use that process. So, I don't know, we'll have to see, and I also want to throw a heads up, because I know how much attention we got when we had that culvert sitting out there with gravel on it for an extended period on the Richmond Road. I can't absolutely say that we're going to get every piece of that thing covered back up with asphalt, specifically up by the bridge. So we're trying to avoid that, but we may end up with some little pieces off the end of the bridge that are gravel until spring. I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but it's a possibility.
That's in the weather.
Yep. So, anything else, Doug?
No, I think we covered about everything we got hanging out there.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Anything else comes up?
The
just throw
public
me an
loves the
email.
update.
Bet.
Yeah, I know they do. I do.
Thanks, Dirk.
Yeah,
Take care.
Thanks, Dirk.
Next item on the agenda, we have the Sheriff's Office discussion on home detention.
Hey, Brenda. Hi. How are you?
Good.
Morning, Brenda.
Hey, Brian. How's it going, Dave?
Morning. David. Morning, Brian.
Sit around already.
Okay.
Start getting going.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have some discussion on Home D regards to some of the functions as far as, I guess, the procedures and stuff. I guess Rachel probably has a little more dealing with this than anybody because she's been working with that.
Well, the
Jacob?
question just came up, pre-adjudicated, post-adjudicated kids, and a lot of counties that I've been dealing with in some of my meetings are surprised to hear that we're taking care of the post-adjudicated kids in our home detention, and I thought everybody did that. They're like, no, that's probation shop. So I was just kind of curious what's different here, and are there other counties doing that, or is that something unique to Brown County?
Well, I guess to answer part of that, I guess I figured you were already aware that we do post because of all the other JDI meetings that we've been to, like Sioux Falls, we've talked about it.
Mhm.
I know Annie's brought it up and we've discussed why we do it. So I was a little taken back on the email and the question, but for us, for our county, we are the only ones that do post and pre. Mainly because one, I guess the judges see it's another tool that they can use for those kids that are on probation that just need a little bit more extra supervision. We do our home detention completely different than any other home detention in our state. Where Minnehaha County only sees their kids at the most maybe 5 times a week, and then they gradually work them down to only 1 time a week. We see ours every day, 7 days a week. I know where they're at 24 hours a day.
Say that again. Minnehaha does 5 times a week?
It starts out about 4 or 5 times a week, and then it moves down to about 3 or 4, and then it moves down to about 1 a week. And they all have electronic monitoring, which we don't have capable for all of our kids. If we had other alternatives for our kids and other resources to use, like the evening reporting center that Pennington County does, it'd be different. But right now, we're kind of the only hope for probation to get the kids back on track, so then that they don't have to be up in custody. If we didn't take the post-adjudicated kids, which I would only have JDC as an option. So then you're looking at more kids up in JDC.
And he wouldn't be able to do that because it would go through probation. So in other counties that aren't doing it like we're doing it, probation is just meeting with them? They're stepping up
Probation
and
meets
doing
with them,
more?
they still do review, they have the other resources that they can use. They can use their evening reporting center, they can use other things that the county has, and we don't have that.
Sure.
But They do, like, we do use court-ordered house arrest with our probation kids.
Sure.
If they violate that, then they can go up to JDC, but usually if they violate that, then they come on home detention so we can keep better track of them. It's just a closer interaction with the kids. Kind of with Minnehaha, when they say they only see their kids at a max maybe 5 times a week, when I was explaining that to some of the probation officers, that's kind of like our intensive probation here. So it's kind of like they have their, I mean, they have intensive probation there, but that's what their home detention is kind of like. And so ours is even more strict and more, there's more supervision with ours. And our kids on home detention, when they're on probation, they're not on as long as the pre-adjudicated kids. You know, obviously those kids are waiting for court, so they could have an attorney that keeps them on for, and keeps continuing the case. I think I have a kid on right now, he's been on since July, waiting for court. The post-adjudicated kids, they average maybe 2 weeks to a month. As soon as they get back on track, maybe they have some grades that need to get up, maybe they are sneaking out at night, and so we just keep track of them better. Once they get all of that stuff in line and go to their counseling and stuff, then they go back to probation.
So the kids that we're seeing on home detention, are they also, like if they were reoffending and stuff, are probation also checking in on them or only home detention?
Probation does check on them, but they kind of take a back burner to it. So they let us take the reins. We follow our rules rather than probation rules. But Kevin will see his kids. He sees his kids like once a week. So Kevin will still meet with his kids once a week just to make sure that they're still doing what they need to do. And we meet with them. We talk to probation on a daily basis and keep them in the loop.
And like I said, I'm new to this too, so, and I understand the meeting we went to where this kind of came up was when we took the tour of Sioux Falls and how we're doing it different than everybody, but it just kind of, it just raises some things to me of why are we doing it different. So is there a fear of over-supervising kids at all, or do you think not? Because we're checking in more than it seems any other county. Are we kind of setting these kids up to fail?
Nope, because our kids actually have a higher success rate with it.
That's definitely been my question.
Okay.
If you look back, if you look at Minnehaha and Pennington County, they are bigger counties, but they have a higher crime rate with their juveniles, and I think that's mainly because they don't supervise their kids as much.
Okay. So the juvenile supervised this year, we've had 46 since the beginning of the year.
Yet I haven't done September's yet.
Okay. And over half of them are the post kids that technically we don't have to be watching.
And if we don't watch those kids, then what happens is there's a review hearing, the judge sees them, and if there's nothing else that he can do for them, then they go up to JDC.
Sure. But I think the whole conversation is creating these alternatives to see, I think we need to ask more questions to see what we can be doing with those kids, because it sounds like a lot of them are like technical violations.
Some of them are, and some are drug related.
Sure.
I mean, Kevin doesn't revoke every single kid that violates.
Sure.
It's kind of stacked up, I guess. So, but there, I mean, I have kids on because they've failed UAs or PBTs or things like that.
Sure. So part of the whole JDI process is creating a spectrum of where do we place kids that's the least restrictive and it's supposed to be better for the kids. So if you detain them for a technical violation, the state says never ever do that. You're supposed to have, and that's why we're trying to create these alternatives, is so that instead of throwing them right into JDC, we have other alternatives. But I think we just need to keep the conversation going, because that's a lot that we don't have to be doing. I mean, technically, if nobody else is spending the money for those kids, and we have 3 full-time, do we have any part-time in home detention?
We have 2 part-timers that just work weekends and holidays from home.
And from my understanding, Minnehaha only has 1 full-time home detention person, because, and if it's working great, that's good. Let's keep doing what we're doing, but I think there's nothing wrong with kind of scrutinizing it a little bit and seeing what do we have to be doing. Are there better ways, especially now that we're changing things here in Brown County with the way we're doing things with detention for kids. So that was kind of what I was wondering, is so we are in fact the only county that does it that way, but it's been working for us from what I hear.
Yeah.
It seems like, I mean, you had kind of alluded to a little bit the time frame between, in other words, how long they're held before they get through the court system. Is there anything at all that can be done to tighten that up, to shorten that up? I mean, what is an average length of time? And I'm sure everyone is different.
Yeah, everybody's different.
Everybody's different, but I just, yeah.
For them to get through court?
Yeah.
Like through their process?
Yeah.
It varies. It takes longer when attorneys are involved, you know, to get schedules and to get evidence and, you know, talk to their clients and get all the
It just
facts
seems like
and
with
stuff.
kids, that's really an important part of this thing. I mean, you don't want to stall that,
I
for
know.
a better way to put it, treatment or whatever.
Yep.
The longer you put that off, the less effective you
I know.
become.
Right now, the kid that I've had on since July, it's some of it's his attorney with trying to get, you know, the facts and get all of his, get everything ready and prepped. The other part is the family, getting mom time off from work and things like that. She just started a new job, and then I think that things have just been continued from then on, so.
Just harder to get that time shortened up.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when we're visiting kids, is it normally we have to go to the school to get them from home? Or?
Excuse me.
We do everything. We go to their homes, we go to their schools, we go to their work. If they tell us that they're at Walmart, we might even show up at Walmart just to make sure that they're there and that they're doing what they're supposed to do. If they say they're going to a football game, we'll go there.
And then, so you guys don't work regular 8 to 5, or is that
The full-timers do. The part-timers are the ones that work from home.
check in?
Yep, so they do the visits, so they come here, they get the county vehicle, and they go do visits. Otherwise, they check messages and make phone calls from the staff cell phone that we have. And they get paid based on how many kids we have. So like if we have 5 kids, they get paid 5 hours plus 2 hours of difference.
Sure.
So as far as probation, they're probation's able to cover all of the kids that pretty regular, schedule, or is there any point where they get piled up so bad that they can't touch every one of them?
Well, probation usually, I know Kevin Rouse sees his kids once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending. I know intensive probation sees theirs a little bit more, but I can't for sure say. I know it's at least maybe 3 or 4 times. And they have a big caseload.
Yeah.
And so I think some of them, they just need a little extra supervision. And so I know Kevin and Tony and Jordy, they really do like our help. And they don't, if you ask, they would tell you that they couldn't probably do as great of a job without us because we help them so much. So.
But that's kind of my point, is as great a job as we're doing, I don't think we should be doing it by ourselves. I think UJS should be stepping in and helping out spots too. But I understand where you're coming from, is where do they go next if we don't provide that option to the judge? He's got to find somewhere else. And according to the JDI stuff statewide, he can't put them in JDC because that's not best practices. We'll lose grant funding, we'll lose all this stuff, so there has to be something in between. He would have to find another alternative. So I think...
And we're in the process of working on those.
Yeah.
We have that JDI coordinator now.
Yep.
So hopefully Kelsey can get some other alternatives. We can maybe try to look at getting maybe an evening reporting center for each doing some other things for them, some check-ins and things like that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, this is all we got.
So I think to get there, though, it's important to have the conversations to see where we at now and where they need to be changing. So I appreciate you guys coming in and taking the time.
It sounds like even though Minnehaha and Pennington don't do things exactly the way we do, they've got other resources available with the evening reporting center in Pennington and maybe Minnehaha that we don't. So this is probably the best alternative for us, given the size of our county and the number of caseload, or the caseload that you have. So.
Correct.
Well, and when we're talking alternatives, that's exactly what I'm asking, is when we're supervising 4 kids a day with 3 full-time and 2 part-time people, I hate to ask the hard question, but should one of those people be working evening and be the report center? Because, that's, and I know you guys check on them a lot. I know the supervision aspect is there, but it's not a lot of kids. And it's coming down, because last year was 6 kids served daily, so. I've never been a proponent of, hey, let's do it like Minnehaha and Pennington, but if every other county is doing it different, I think it's just important to ask the question, so, thank you.
And with our success rate, maybe they should be looking at what we're doing.
Maybe they should, but
That's what I would say.
Right.
some things are successful, but some we're not so much.
Can you explain the numbers? I was looking at this. Juveniles detained, violation for 26, successful police program 27, unsuccessful 15, and repeat offenders 11. Can you give me a little recap of what that all means?
Okay, I'll try. Okay, so I know, well, Rachel had asked about, she wanted to know about how many kids maybe might have been unsuccessful. And so when she had asked that, and that's why I put kind of at the bottom, it was any time that the kid was detained while on the program. I view it a little bit differently. To me, an unsuccessful juvenile would be where maybe they violated, they went into JDC and they never came back out on home detention. I usually give the kids like every 2 weeks. I will talk to their probation officer, I'll talk to the judge, I'll talk to the state's attorney, and I will explain, okay, this is how well they're doing, this is what, this is what I think they need to work on still, this is where we're at, and at that point we all kind of decide if they've done well enough to be released. So to me, even if they maybe get detained, and then they get back out with us, they get another 2 weeks or a week or so to prove that they can kind of get things back on track. So then I would look again at possibly releasing them. So to me, a success would be them actually leaving the program and moving back on to probation or something like that. But I know what I was asked to just show if they've ever been detained while on the program. So that would be the 15 juveniles that apparently at some point while they were on the program they were detained. The successful completions would be the 27 that they were never detained. They completed the program with no problems whatsoever. They did what they had to do and got off. The juveniles that were detained for violations, that's 26. That's any time that that we did have to put them up in JDC for violations. Those violations could be anything from a failed UA, running away, being AWOL, things like that. Those are the high ones. We try not to detain for anything less than that. The only thing that would probably on there would also be like if they get kicked out of school, because right now we don't have anywhere for them to go. So we would put them in JDC so they can go to JDC school for the time being until we get other resources in the community. Other than that, I think I answered your question.
Thank you.
Yep.
Brian, are we still tracking how many, New Beginning Center, how many calls have we made over there to check if they have openings for kids that score for alternatives on the Ray?
I talked with Kelsey and she's going to keep track of that.
Oh, she is, okay. But
I haven't touched base with her, so I haven't seen her in a
okay.
while. But
How many did we have since June when we started?
when the first month that I started, we only had 3. So
Only 3 scored for alternatives and we called?
yeah. I'll get you better numbers later.
It's kind of nice
Talk
they
to
gave...
Kelsey, or you can talk to her. I don't.
Sure. The Center for Juvenile Justice that gave us that grant to get Kelsey has said that if we track how many times we call over a New Beginning Center and they don't have room for us, there's some reimbursement funding for the county, depending on, because normally they give it to people that don't have a shelter bed in their community. That was part of that grant that we put in. We said, well, we have one, but it's never available. It's always full. So they said to track that and they would give us some money back for that coming forward. So yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
That's all I have.
Well, thank you for coming over.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time.
you. Next item, we have Judy Dosh, Building Superintendent. We have a basement update. Morning, Judy.
Just wanted to show you guys that all the areas that we have done have been inspected, so we've been approved by the city to open up the 24/7 building.
We're approved, huh?
We're approved.
Good.
And putting the cove base around, hopefully finish that today, and we're planning on moving some of their stuff, most of their stuff tomorrow. And if we have anything left, it would be Thursday, so they were talking about Thursday night they would be over here. So
Good deal.
the
So,
only thing we got left is weed and pest.
no, that's what I was just going to ask you that next question. Since the change in all the planning and zoning and all the things in Gary's resignation, is Weed and Pest have access to that office now?
Well, I'd put money into that room to get him moved in.
Well, I guess that was my question.
So, it's like, you know, and I don't know what you guys are planning on doing down the road either, so it's like, you know, I had to
So
do
we'd
some
have an
stuff with
extra
it.
office down there for sure now.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
yep. I mean, depending on what you guys are doing, I don't
Well,
know.
I guess that
what
was
you guys-
kind of what I was looking at, because I think the conversation probably would lead that, depending on what we do with planning and zoning, which way we go there. I think I had talked to Scott yesterday morning, he would prefer if there is going to be another person brought in, he wants it in his office, just for the fact of training, and it's easier to monitor things and stuff. So I don't think that planning and zoning is probably going to go across that office that is going to be available, so that would probably be a spare office that we will be
Yeah.
ending
Well, I
up
didn't
with.
know if you guys were planning on down the road to be a part-time commission assistant, I had no clue, so
Yeah.
it was, you know.
So we know we got an office space.
You have an
available.
office space.
Okay.
You don't have a clue, welcome to our world.
So my other thing, one of my other things is, when do you think that you're gonna be turning the building over to?
He hasn't set a closing date yet.
Okay.
I told him to let us know as soon as him and the buyer set that, but
Okay,
because he didn't seem to be too worried whether it was before November 1st or after November 1st. So as soon as they get that set, we'll let everybody know.
so then my other thing was, I didn't know if you had talked with him on the snow removal, so that we can get back to the impound, or are we just going to go from the road and give us a path back to the impound? Do I tell my snow guys to do that? If it's not, just give me a path back to...
We haven't had that conversation with him.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm just...
think
I'm
you
bringing-
want to make sure that you have access to the
Correct, but
back
I'm just wanting you guys to be
regardless.
aware and to know, okay, what I need to tell my snow
Well,
guys.
Yeah, is there an easement there to get into
Yeah.
the impound in the
Yes.
back? Well, then
Yeah.
that's what we should be cleaning out.
Yeah.
Well, see,
So
there's,
removal.
you know, the insurance also has easement to that too, and they, you know, they clean it out too, so it's like...
Might take a little cooperation
Correct.
between us,
Coordination.
and mutual
Yep,
us and
yep,
yeah.
and
right,
now Mike
yep.
Salem.
And that's why I just wanted, you know, if you guys have talked with them and, you know,
I don't think that conversation's been had.
okay, all
We
right.
take turns. The big snows they do it, the small snows.
Okay, that'll work.
Now we just have to figure out the rotation of how the snow's going.
Yeah. And then I was gonna...
Thursday, okay? Thursday, Friday will be the next rotation.
Thanks, Scott.
And then I was wondering, and I have asked this before, to help Roxy get some of her scanning done, because she's got so much, you know, I was hoping that a lot of it I wouldn't even have to brought over, because, you know, once it gets scanned, we can destroy. And I know with her having, if she could maybe even, and I don't even know if it would help, I mean, it's gonna help a lot to get some of more scanned, but I know probably for this year she has some extra money, you know, from not having a salary. So when he gets, you know, closed up for the winter, is it something he can come for like a month and a half, 2 months? I really don't know when he's closing up. Maybe he's closing up by next week. I don't really know that, you know, with the way the weather's going. So.
Would it be more cost effective to have the company didn't they come in and do a bunch for the auditor's
That was
office?
the minute books, and those were...
We have to be really
unique
careful.
with how they scanned them, because they're oversized historic books.
Right.
Some of them are like hand sewn, you know.
But I mean, if there's a professional service that could come in and do it,
I mean, the key
you know, a
is
lot
there
more
is
Careful for
condensed
medical.
time.
That's a HIPAA thing. So we
Well, I
have to be
think
really
these
careful.
companies that professionally scan would be, you know,
Yeah.
they would be
It's something
whatever
we can look
certified
into,
or
if they can come
something.
for a couple weeks and just...
They might be able to come in and do it in 3 weeks, where it would
Yeah.
take a part-time person 6 months. It's worth checking out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's with Roxy, but yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause they
We
get
can
paid
talk to Roxy
professionally
about
to
it.
scan. I mean, they should
Because
be
this scanning was a little
proficient.
different.
certified with, you know, HIPAA and that kind of
This
stuff.
was an
that they scan
overhead
everything.
scanner,
Right.
whereas this wouldn't be scanned with an overhead scanner, it would be run through. Like our Kyocera's are actually set up to do this kind of bulk scanning. It
But
sounds
there
like
might
the
be a
con-
service that's
well,
available
here's the
versus
catch
hiring
on
a
this
part-time.
project. A lot of it's already been
like 46 of these boxes are already scanned. They just need to be gone through to make sure the scan was done right.
Yeah, because some are missing the back pages and all that kind of stuff, and then we have 6 more, well, we got more than that because she can do the ones up front too. We have 12 more filing cabinets that could be scanned in. And
How old are we talking? Are these files that you have to recheck?
how old of them? Oh, I guess
Everything we're scanning
Yeah.
is leaned, so the
Yep.
retention is pretty much
Yep.
forever as long
Yep.
as the lien's on.
But the liens have already been placed on.
Yeah, but sometimes if someone challenges their lien,
You need the
we will
document.
We
go
need the
down to the
document.
welfare files and verify it, identifiers or whatever the case is.
So this scanning is to reduce size, is that what we're doing? I mean, is that the
Well, they
main-
want everything scanned, yes, and, because basically, once everything gets scanned, that, we'll have another office we're using it for storage right now, we'll have another office
And that
that's
office is full
available.
to the brim.
Yes.
Yeah, it's full.
I mean, it's nothing that's absolutely required by any law or anything like that, it's a matter of reducing, getting it into
Well, you
a
want it,
reduced.
you guys
Yeah.
want, you want everything scanned so that you have it, and it would make it easier for...
But long-term is the auditor's office will have availability to the files, so that we don't have to call Roxy and, have this back and forth on getting information. Well, we have
Accessibility
someone-
is the
Quicker
Accessibility is the
access
big
right
thing.
on your
Right.
computer.
Yeah,
Just
because
like
you
we
can
have
access
with
the auditors
deeds.
to, be able to get into these files that are already scanned, and then Dave doesn't have to call in and they're looking, which you guys do quite often.
Right.
Yep.
Especially when somebody challenges, I never got that rent assistance, then I go to Roxy, she goes in the box, finds the signed application, the signed repayment agreement, gives it to me so that I can go back to it for it. Where if we had it online, I just pop it up and say, well, yeah, here's a copy of what you signed and here's a copy of what you agreed to repay.
Got it.
Sounds like we could look into an experience work or a high school student or somebody to do
See, that goes back to the HIPAA.
But Cliff, when he was starting to work on, when he was still here, had said that this doesn't, their office, it doesn't deal with HIPAA, it doesn't matter with the county government. The
Yeah,
part
but-
that he was...
Yeah, but to
We
me,
asked him
medical,
that.
and Roxy would have to be afraid to say that, but medical and social security numbers, to have some young kids, or,
Well,
I'm
maybe
just
that's a-
saying, we have to be protected.
Maybe that's a question that the state's attorney's office could clear up, whether or not in that situation, whether or not it needs to be somebody that's HIPAA.
I believe, in the collection business, we as a third-party collection agency had access to the people's procedure, because when you call somebody and say, you've got this bill for that, there is an endorsement, I believe, you as a third party can have signed, given the right to a third party to the HIPAA information. That's how we did it. So, we as a third party had no really right to look at their medical unless we were involved through a collection part of it, and then that party had to give us that right.
The right, yeah.
I guess the question sort of in the beginning of this was, Chris Heeman works about 5.5, 6 months at the state's attorney's office. Could Roxy have him for 2 in order to kind of get caught up on this scanning? That's kind of what she was looking at.
That's
But
what I'm looking
there may be value in having a county employee go through the old boxes that have already been scanned and hiring out the 12 file cabinets. Maybe a combination of the 2.
And that's why I said she has the money for this year, because we had Cliff's salary. Next year, that's not worked in the equation, but
Be a
at
good-
least a couple months.
For Christine, that'd be a good
Kind
one.
of share them
Well, and I think he
Yeah.
was getting close to done as state's attorney for scanning purposes,
That'd be perfect.
wasn't he?
I'm not sure how far he got. I'd have to check.
Okay.
Like I
And
said,
this project isn't immediate, so if he finishes up this year, maybe 2021, Roxy could have Chris too.
If it snows on Thursday, he'll have more time.
Right.
I guess that would probably involve the state's attorney as far as what they've got lined up for Chris, and where that time factor is as far as what they've got projected for him. So maybe that needs to happen, is find out.
I mean, we had talked about this last year and tried to get him, because I was trying to get it so that I wouldn't have to, I packed up all these and hauled them all over, and I was trying not to, because, I could have just brought them over and we could have had them destroyed already, but it didn't work out, they all came over, so. So I just wanted to have that conversation again to see if there's something that we can't do to help out there. Okay. One of my other things is, I gotta start the signage I just was wondering if you had any input of how you wanted me to deal with the signages, or do you want me just to, you know, get the plastic stuff and hang up on the walls all over, or do you have a different idea that you want signage for where the offices are, like in the basement, and where to go?
Where should she hang the shingles? That's what she's asking.
'Cause I mean, I have one here, but I kind of, you know, I'd have to change one. I mean, I gotta tear everything off and redo everything. And if that's the kind of signage that you wanna go to, I know going to buy televisions or whatever, or by screens, you know, that's gonna be a lot more spendy. That's probably something that we don't wanna do.
So like on this one, you just need to add planning and zoning and welfare to that sign?
Well, I have to basically take that off and make a whole new one.
I
Because
would think signs like that, just dictating that those offices are downstairs would be sufficient, I mean.
Right. But I see, and then here I'm sitting, because whatever I put up and have made new, and we have more people go to the basement, then I'm redoing these signs again. So, I mean, it's not cheap.
Leave a little spot in the bottom. We only have a couple extra
and break
offices
it
down
trying
there.
to get it off the wall once it's glued back on,
Add
right?
a separate sign underneath it.
Until we're completely settled, why don't you have Scott Madsen just make up a nice looking sign, laminate it, put it up?
Perfect.
So a short-term, you know,
Short-term?
directional sign till we,
All right.
till we get
Till
everything
everybody-
settled.
I can do that.
I mean,
I just
he'll make it
wanted-
look professional and
I just wanted to know if you...
laminate it and put it up.
Yep, all right, we'll do that. Okay. My other thing is, this month I'm gonna, probably at the end of the month, I'm gonna plan on that little rummage sale. So I was wondering, who should I have come and we discuss what we're gonna put on prices for the stuff that we have left? Do we just go back to the past and see what it had sold for a price on the surplus? Is that what we do, or?
What are we talking for?
Well, you know, I have some chairs and some desk, and there's some bookcases.
I
And
think you should just make an offer and you take what your judgment call is.
Okay,
I don't
Right.
think you take the time to mark it all.
No.
okay. All right.
Because you kind of, from
Yeah.
your experience, know what, yeah.
If it's office related, it usually doesn't bring much money anyway, so.
Right, yep, yep. So, okay, then I'll do that. Then, the other thing is, we need to get Scott someplace, with all his storage. So, I mean, you know, we hate to put him into someplace, and then 6 months down the road, he's gotta move again, because, I mean, can we get him someplace where he's there for the long haul? We build a new building. I know the money's tight. I don't know what your guys' feelings are. I have checked on some storage that he could have long-term, but then you're spending money. I can tell you what that would be.
Can I ask a question? Dave, the building to the north of the Millam building, I know you've got several garage doors, and I know in the past, most of that space has been utilized, but through a little bit of cooperative effort, could you maybe condense enough to get maybe a trailer or whatever Scott needs to get in there until we find a long-term solution? Could things be jockeyed temporarily to accommodate the stuff he's got, or part of it?
There's short-term, yes, we can do some of that. Our problem is, I'll just throw this out, is that it is an evidence.
Yep.
So we would have to get it out for him. He can't have access to the building. One of our people would have to open it up, let him get it out, and then shut it up and lock it back up again. But short-term could work. It's just, again, we can't have any CERT members. We can't even have Scott go over there due to the vehicles and everything that's in the building is evidence.
Which I know would be an inconvenience, but at least if there's some things that it would be critical to be inside, it'd be a short-term solution until we figure out maybe a place at the fairgrounds could be opened up, you know, for permanent storage. There's options, but since we have to be out of there in less than a month, that might work to at least get some of it inside.
And I think we can make that work for a short-term thing. I mean, obviously, we're probably not gonna need our boats, you know,
Right.
which we can put in the impound for the winter.
Right.
But again, you know, we really need to have a place that's accessible 24/7 and that I can give access to my CERT people to go get equipment if we need it, things like that. So keep that in mind when you're going down that path, that it needs to be available 24/7, you know.
I'm just looking for a short-term solution until we can figure out what the long-term solution is.
I have two solutions here. I checked on renting a building for a month, or for months, you know, for the rest of this. We can get a 25-foot wide building by 50-foot long storage stall. It actually has a bathroom in it and an in-floor heat. And it actually also has an exterior parking spot if you wanted to set something outside.
It's got a bathroom and heat?
Yes, in-floor heat.
Let's move weed and pests there. Save all the money of running the water and electrical over there.
Exactly. It's $900 a month.
We can move everything into weed and pests. Problem solved.
$900 a month. And I know the other ones, there's some other ones around the area that they don't have the bathroom, they don't have the in-floor heat, you don't even have an extra parking spot, but that's running in at $700.
So as we approach Kurt from Fairgrounds, we store campers and boats out there. The money we make off the storage of those camper and boats, are we not better off utilizing our space for Scott stuff out there? Is there, I mean, I don't know what Kurt's situation is and what it is, but I would seem that would be the fit. We've got the buildings out there that we're currently renting for I don't know how many dollars. It's probably not a lot of money.
20-some thousand.
Yeah. We're not gonna give it all up.
Well,
$10
but the problem there is that in the fair time or summertime, a lot of
everything comes out.
that stuff's gotta be out. So the buildings can be used for other purposes, so it's not a permanent.
And the rest of the buildings Dirk uses, like under the grandstand, Dirk stores pumps and stuff, you know, no different than we're looking for storage, so.
I did talk with, another option is I did talk with Chris at the weed, and I have talked to Dirk. And if, you know, Dirk always takes a couple stalls up the weed building. And he said that, you know, we could put all our stuff in there. Dirk said he could find, you know, he'd have to find someplace to put his other stuff, you know, try to get it fit in somewhere. But the problem with that then too is, come April, Scott's gotta move all his stuff out, because then Chris, you know, has to start working on his trucks and has them all lined up and things, so.
This building for $900 a month, how many overhead doors does that have? Just one?
Mhm.
Yeah, see, that would be a problem right there for weed.
Have we looked into what it would cost just to put up some cold storage over here? Some footings in a metal building? I don't even care if it's gravel. I mean, obviously we'd like to have it paved and heated and, you know, all that kind of stuff, but, you know, what's it gonna take to put up a couple, 2 or 3 stalls over here?
I don't know if we've gotten a quote on that or not. I mean, that building is designed to add on to, I mean, and...
I know Doug had gotten some, do you remember what your figures was? Like, you would say
Well,
like
you know,
40,000?
I guess the thing there would be is, what are we looking for, bare bones, or, you know, we started one project and then it gets upgraded all the way through as we go. So I guess, you know, the decision is do we just want 4 walls, cold storage, gravel bottom? You know, those are relatively cheap, but when you start throwing cement and heated floor and air conditioning and 18-foot overhead doors, I mean, everything adds up. I mean, how high a door do you need? You know, and we always try to build for the future, but sometimes we end up shooting ourselves in the foot, because when we build for the future, it ends up being $40,000, $50,000 more than what we need.
And there's some things when you're building this building that you need to do up front to get it ready, if you're planning on doing some doors in some other areas, and, you know, and you should possibly, when you're building this building, put the flooring in, put the cement in it. And I know that adds more money, but in the long run, you gotta take all that stuff out that you just, you know.
I know I've asked this question before, but does the city, I mean, they obviously are caught in the need for some of this equipment that we're storing probably as often as the county is. And they, I mean, has there been any real conversation with the city as far as an opportunity to...
I can tell you the conversations that we've had in the past, Dennis, is they're looking for space. They're renting space for some of their equipment right now, west of town. Like their big armored vehicle, they rent space for that because they don't have room for it. So they're, yeah.
Parks and Rec put up a really nice building down in the south of Melgar, maybe we could park it in there.
I understand that the building's for sale, but it might be worth contacting Runnings. They've got the north end of their old building. They might be willing to rent that out for the winter as a place. That'd be an ideal spot to, it's all cemented. We would like to get in the main part of the store. They might rent the north part and with the, you know, with the idea that if it sells, we'll have to deal with it, but that might be a long-term solution to a
I believe
problem.
that building's been sold.
It has been now?
I think that's,
Cross that one off then.
And you know what, folks, again, we can work with Dave to get the absolute stuff that we need in the impound, and again, you know, here in a couple months, boats, you know, my guess is we're not gonna need boats and motors and all that kind of stuff. Depending on when we gotta be out of this other building, you know, it will be a little bit of a key factor, but we could make it work for a few months if we decide to do something different. If we're not ever going to look at adding on over here or a building, then we just well take and go find a building to rent or whatever. But if you're thinking that we're going to do something across the street, then I think we got options for short term. But again, if this is going to be something that, you know, we're never going to do over there, then we got other issues.
let me ask you this, has anybody approached the purchaser of this building? If there's a plan for him to do something with it immediately, maybe he would allow us to have a short-term storage till next spring or next fall, you know. Is it worth the call just to say, what are your plans for this? Is he gonna demo it immediately, or is it gonna sit there for a year? I mean, is there anything wrong with just checking that option out?
We've heard some hearsay, but I don't know that anybody's contacted him. That, I mean,
Just a thought, I mean.
absolutely.
I can get a hold of him. I'll call him this afternoon.
You know, it's just another avenue to check out.
So do you think putting up some cold storage is an option?
I definitely think it is.
So I mean, again, if we could work with Mike over there for the winter or something, and you know, till we got something hammered out.
In worst case, Dave can make some room available, buy it some time until spring at least. They can get some quotes, and in the spring they can start on it.
And we've got some stuff that we can put over there in Dave's corner that, you know, we wouldn't need, you know, it's dragging equipment for you know, lakes and stuff like that, and buoys and all that kind of stuff. That ain't the stuff that I need access to, you know.
Right.
It's the emergency equipment, you know, when we have somebody on a lake or river, when we need a boat or we need a four-wheeler or,
Yep.
you know, things like that, so. And we're getting ready to swap that equipment, you know, here, probably sooner than later. So now, you know, if I'm gonna put it away, I just soon put it away, then have to move it.
Well, short-term, plan on moving it over to Dave's space to buy us some time and give us the opportunity to figure out a different plan.
Can we go start looking at some estimates?
I think that's probably viable. I guess the question I would have is, if you're gonna look at, building onto the blue building, is the only option west, is the only option, I understand, has to go west, there isn't any other option as far as adding onto that building?
Anything's possible, but that would be the most logical.
Well, I guess our lot lines and all that, that type of thing, I mean, that helps determine.
What
you
size
could
of the
go-
building?
Right, that,
What you want-
could go east,
You
and we
could.
own the other lot, that there's a fence there
But
right
it's not
now,
gonna be
but-
very, because you've gotta have access to get into your vehicles and all that kind of
Well,
stuff. So basically,
and again-
you're not adding very much on.
Leave that option open, because if we did something, and here's what I'll say, all of our utilities at that building come in on the west side of the building. All the sewer, the water, the fiber, all that stuff comes in on the west side of the building. So we'd have to deal with all that if we go west. If we go east and we put doors like we did on the south side of the building, we'd lose some parking in that lot, but there's probably plenty of room to add 50, 75 feet over there and put doors coming to the south
And park on the west side.
and
So
and
you're
then
gonna
the parking lot for the
well,
west.
and that brings my next question when I asked that. You realize the blue building is substantially taller than what you would probably need is there a possibility that you go to a 10 or 12 foot sidewall instead of having, you know, it would still tie into that building, but do you want it as tall as the old building? I mean, there's a million different aspects of this thing when you're looking at adding onto a building. Does it have to be the same height as the other one? And what you're looking at, I guess that's kind of where I'm going with that. I mean, how do you get a quote if you don't know what you want?
And currently, what we're gonna put in there, no, we wouldn't have to go that big. Our current vehicle is our command trailer. That's the tallest, you know, that's the tallest trailer we have right now that needs a 14-foot door, I believe, 14 or 16.
But height is the other option. Is, you know, everything is built by height. I mean,
Right.
if you're going to have 14-foot sidewalls, 10-foot sidewalls, I mean, that all varies in your price. And I mean, I guess if you don't, if there again, we're short term. If we're going to go to the east side, we look at filling our need now. If we want to build on in 5 years, 100 feet to the west, we've got the option to do it. But that's all the things you get into, and we talked about this. There's so many options available, so we have to pick an option and go down that road instead of, well, let's look at this, let's look at that. I think if the east side is more feasible, we don't need to be as tall. You call a company and say, what does it take to put I mean, you probably want it the same width, but it doesn't necessarily have to be as tall. So what does it take to put a 40 by 50 or whatever it be?
So in that thing, can we get 2 garage doors more?
Right.
Two more stalls about?
Well, at least 2.
You know,
Why
40
don't
by
we
50.
get
I
some
can get,
quotes
I can
and
get
see
a
what
quote for that.
that's,
And I can get a quote for that.
same width, 60 feet, or
Yep.
whatever is feasible.
We'll have to look and see what that lot is over
Right.
there.
I mean, if 60 works, get a quote for a 60 by whatever the width is. Number of feet tall, I mean, it would, and have to figure it both ways. Maybe tying into the existing roof would be the
Right.
most cost efficient. And it's not much more to lower it, so.
Okay.
Well, if you build it, you know you'll fill it. That always happens. There's never extra room once you put something up. I think the better option is to tell Kurt we want the last stall by the door and just don't take as many campers. You're taken care of for 11 months, fair comes around, we just have, I know that's annoying, to have to move it out and back in, but I don't think we can afford to put up a new shed after what we just went through this budget season.
Well, that'd be my question. Where's the money coming from? Whose budget are we gonna spend it out of?
But quotes are free, so it doesn't hurt to look.
At least we know what our options
Salivate
are.
over what we can't have.
You know, we have to look at what's realistic too.
Yep. We have options.
Well, I'm just saying, you plan on eventually down the road, I mean, this would be a good location, and that's what you're gonna be dealing to rent. And I mean, you're gonna have 11,000 for rent in a year, so I mean,
Yeah, you don't want to rent.
To me, that isn't even an option,
No.
to spend that kind of money for rent.
well, I brought it so that you guys would realize that, okay, then we can put this 11,000 a year and we can get a building built. And
Yep,
be saving
Well,
money.
That's why I think
Dwayne
we
would
need to get
contact
quotes.
the purchaser of our film building, we can see where that goes. Maybe there's an option there for, maybe it is a long-term fix, but maybe that would eliminate you from having to move everything and back and forth and moving it over there. It can stay where it's at if we can make that work. It would be handy till maybe next year, and we'd have to make a decision, but. So why don't we discover that first before we look for quotes, because a quote would change in 10, 11, 12 months. So there's no sense getting a quote if this is gonna work with the
Just
current
leaving it
purchaser.
there, okay,
So let's find that part of the puzzle out first and take it from there.
all right,
I'll let you know what I find out.
Okay?
Thanks for doing that.
Sounds good.
thank you.
Kathy, you let me know when you get that stuff signed and taken care of today,
Yes.
if you would, and I'll send over. Thank you.
Thanks.
That takes care of our agenda items.
Ready? You're done with me?
Unless you have anything else.
No. Thank you.
Kathy, you want to take care of a few things?
Yeah, we have minutes from the general meeting October 1st.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kipley, to approve the general meeting minutes from October 1st. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Claims?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Fikert, second by Sutton, to approve claims. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
HR report?
I'll move it. Second.
Moved by Kipley, second by Sutton, to approve the HR report. All
Now,
in
just
favor?
for clarification, that job description wasn't part of the HR
This does
report.
not include planning and zoning.
Yep, just want to make sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Surplus property to be sold to other government entities? that fogger and the taser.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Fikert, second by Sutton.
Did you say it's being sold to other government entities?
We're gonna try
Advertise.
to, yeah.
Okay.
The fogger and tasers will be advertised for outside other government entities to purchase.
I just wanted to make sure we were checking out that it was to sell and not just to give.
Yeah,
Because
to
we
be
did
sold.
eBay and those tasers go for $250 each.
Have you bought one?
No, I was just curious if you get a few bucks off it.
You bought one for each
Not
kid.
yet, depends on what you go for.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Third quarter interest?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kippley, to approve the third quarter interest report. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Claim assignment?
Second.
Moved by Kippley, second by Fikert, to authorize the chair to sign claim assignments. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Lease?
So move. Second.
Moved by Fikert, second by Sutton, to authorize the lease. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Operating transfers?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Fikert, to authorize the operating transfer to highway, I believe it was.
Well, we're
A laundry
doing,
list. There's several in
we're
there.
taking the landfill transfer into the general fund and then giving that to highway, and then we're doing our other special revenue funds as approved in the 19 budget. We're not doing the entire transfer up to highway. We'll wait a few weeks here until we get more revenue coming in,
Right.
and then do that probably in November.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
We need to approve the highway 5 years from last week. We missed that motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
Thought we had, but maybe I missed it.
Moved by Sutton, second by Feldheim, to approve the 5-year plan for the highway. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And then we had an addition of the emergency management state and local agreement for the first quarter. Authorize the chair to sign.
Move it. Second.
Moved by Fikert, second by Kippley, to authorize the chair to sign the emergency management
The third quarter grant.
third quarter grant.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
That's everything that I have.
Gary, do you have anything?
Just quickly, you can, staying on the vehicle topic, you can start thinking about what you want to do with the vehicles. One of the issues we're having is planning and zoning vehicle and our surplus vehicle that we have for other people to use. They don't get used often enough, and the battery dies on them. And so if somebody would want it, then it wouldn't, then you gotta go through all this effort just to get it going again. And so, but, you know, my vehicle will be coming available, and then the sheriff's office will have maybe one decent Explorer that will be coming over, a little higher mileage than what we normally have on these vehicles, but it may be usable for a little bit. But Equalization has said that maybe they'd be willing to take a third vehicle and put it into a rotation to where maybe it will keep things going a little more. The Explorer might be good for them too, that Explorer, but that's one of the issues as you think about continuing to get more and more of these vehicles. If you're going to keep them around, if they're not being used, it really doesn't do much good. So just something to think about. The Explorer I have has 98.4 on it now, I think, so it's a little lower than the sheriff's one probably will be, so that should be a decent vehicle for a while to use. But just something to start thinking about how you want to do that in the future, and if you want to give Equalization another one, if you want to give Planning and Zoning a different one, and how you're going to do that in the future. So
I guess one of the questions that Scott brought up for planning and zoning, he drives his vehicle to work, but then if he's got a meeting, he'd have to drive back here to get his work vehicle because he's not authorized to take it back and forth. He said half the time it don't start because the battery's dead.
yeah.
So he just uses his own vehicle. So I guess we have to
You can
make.
just claim mileage, though. You know what I
But
mean?
I guess that would be.
But that's the thing, yeah. I say maybe that's the other thing is, do you think about,
allowing more people to take vehicles home, including equalization employees. And then, you know, they just got to understand that they're paying that 54.5 cents per mile for personal miles, and whether they're willing to do that or not for appointments and everything else.
So what list of, I guess, just for clarity, surplus, how many of these vehicles do we have floating around that?
We
probably
only
aren't
have
being
the
used?
one Impala, and then we'll have my current Explorer, and then one Explorer from the sheriff if he
And then
decides
isn't
to
there also
take it.
a white Yukon or something that Scott drives occasionally?
Yeah,
That also?
and his vehicle that you already have in his department.
So,
Does equalization have a
Plus
vehicle
two more
now?
there.
They
Or
have
are
2
using-
vehicles over there.
6 total.
Yeah.
6 total.
They have an Impala and, another bigger vehicle, 4-wheel.
6 high mileage vehicles equals expense.
Maybe we just need a list
It
of
does.
the miles and...
And we can
Fine.
certainly do that, but that, that just brings up that question of, or do you rent vehicles or lease vehicles, or
No.
do you keep, whatever you want to do, there's a lot of different things, but they got to be used to make them useful, even with high mileage. It doesn't make any sense to just have them sitting there and
Right.
used once every 3-4 months.
I guess I'm a little reluctant to issue or let the employees take vehicles home. I'd rather pay a mileage for, my personal feeling is pay a mileage for use that they do for the county. Now, in emergency type things, maybe highway department or something, if they have to check roads or whatever, that's maybe a little different issue. But I don't know, just my thought. I'd rather pay the mileage than have vehicles strung all over, everybody running around.
And that was the question, Dennis, that was brought up a couple of years back before you came back on, is the equalization group was going, well, it really isn't worth my insurance and my putting all these extra miles on my personal vehicles and things for the mileage that was being paid, and that's why they were pushing to have county vehicles to use at least somewhat. But when they're that high of a mileage, though, nobody really wants to take them to conferences and stuff because they feel better about taking their own vehicles, that they know where it's at.
Well, we're researching countywide maintenance plans on these vehicles right now, trying to get a better price on them. So we can just kind of include this and just collectively research these cars and come with a solution in a few months.
Sounds good.
Go ahead.
Anything else to come before the commission this morning?
For those vehicles that consistently have the battery go dead, if they have access to a plug-in, just put one of those little trickle chargers. I mean, they're
Yeah.
$25, probably cheaper
That's
than
an option.
cheaper than having the battery started or the car started every time
If we
it goes dead.
can run to electrical somewhere, it's a ways away, that's the problem, but...
I don't know where the outlets are.
Can we
That's
park
an
by
option.
the blue building and probably run electric from that?
But yeah, there's options.
Those trickle chargers are pretty cheap. All you need is a couple to keep those charged up.
The issue you have, once the battery goes dead in the wintertime, the battery usually cracks and is
Yep.
shot, so then you're replacing batteries for a vehicle you very seldom use, and I guess that's an option.
Trickle chargers, cheap insurance.
Yeah. And then there are those, once you get to those higher miles, all those other things start coming too, maintenance-wise.
Is there a way we can get an inventory of our cars that are currently, excluding highway, I understand the highway's a little different breed versus what, but like, anybody in the departments, what vehicles are out there and how many they have, and what
Yeah,
the
we have
mileages
that
are?
already. Well, the mileage we'll have to check, but yeah, for insurance reasons, we have a list of vehicles for every single
Could
department.
I'd like to see that, and just kind of look at it and review it, and just see where we're at.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So
Do we have an exec?
Erica's been sitting here. You sure we don't need a personnel or anything?
I was gonna do personnel, yeah.
Okay.
I've got personnel.
Well, I asked anything else to come before the commission.
You continue talking.
Motion was seconded, so we don't have to
So
adjourn.
we're good. We'll hold that motion.
I'll move exec.
Second.
Yes, still be the adjourned motion.
After
Move
a
Moved by Sutton, second by Kipling, to go into exec. All in favor?
Aye.
We are out of exec, no action as a result. Anything else coming before the commission?
Move to adjourn.
We earlier had a motion by Fiker to adjourn.
I'll second that. The earlier.
We have a second by Sutton to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are